Our guest for this hour is already seated in the hot seat, and we will be having a conversation about a lot of things. The Registrar of Political Parties, Madam Nderitu, is already here with us. And as we start off this hour, let's welcome her with today's proverb.
Yes, the whole of this week, our proverbs have been from the country of Djibouti. And today marks the end of those proverbs from the country of Djibouti. A camel never sees its own hump.
What do you think of that? What do you make of that?
That you can carry so much wealth, you can carry so much, but probably you're not able to see what you are carrying. And unless somebody else see it and tell you, you may know probably it exists, but the magnitude of what you are and what you are carrying may not be clear to you. Yeah, because you cannot see it directly.
You can't see it, but others can.
Yeah.
Indeed. All right. The wealth of the office that you carry is seen by very, very, very many. And in the last few days, there have been whirlwinds swirling. And as we just get right into that conversation, I'm going to ask a question that may seem very basic, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And then as we have the conversation, it might seem why. What does the office of the registrar do? What responsibility is placed upon your office and on your person as a registrar of political parties in Kenya today?
The office of registrar of political parties is an independent state office established by Political Parties Act under the meaning of Article 260 of the Constitution of Kenya. It was established way back in 2007, where it was hosted under the Electoral Commission then. Later in 2011, there was a repeal of the Act, and when the Act was repealed, we then had a Political Parties Act to 2011, and that is the act that we're implementing today. This is the act that delinked the Office of Registrar from the Electoral Commission, and the office finally was delinked successfully in 2015. Yeah, so it has been in existence for that period, and the mandate of the Office of Registrar, broadly speaking, include registering political parties, regulating activities of political parties, and finally administering political parties fund in broad terms. However, in the Act, this mandate is broken into 11 functions, which really speak to how that regulation should happen and how then you administer that fund, you regulate and become custodian of the membership register, among other things. Yeah, so in a nutshell, that is the definition of the Office of Registrar in law.
In law. Many might think that it takes a salient position until this one event then comes where people now want to register either their alignment or their choice to then be recognized in government, and it takes on the name of elections. And then we see a lot of realignment. We see a lot of running around, and then the name of the office comes into play quite often, and you make headlines again quite often during an election, and there's changing of posts and changing of seats. How do you play out changing of parties, registration of new parties? How then do you play out in a heated electoral situation whereby you have to follow the law? How do you play out in such situations? Because we then hear front and center during an election.
One, the reason why we hit headlines sometimes is not for our own making, because generally speaking, our office is apolitical. And we are an impartial institution and apolitical. So we do our work quietly, just like any other government institutions, and we really deliver service to the people who are supposed to be where service is supposed to deliver to the people who come to visit us, or we look at what is our mandate and then implement it. But when they are, because we are registered of political parties, then when political parties and politicians have issues to do with their own political competition, including, for example, change of realignment and change of names and change of officials and all that, they are the one who heighten the activities, and then we then have to come out and explain and clear the air and talk about our institution and talk about our decisions, because sometimes politicians have a platform that we don't have, because they can say anything. They can talk out there and probably talk against or for. But as an institution, our mandate is to do the work without political interference, and so much so that our ability to then execute our decision is focused on the law and the procedures that have been laid down there. So that's why we take this opportunity very seriously, so that we are able to educate Kenyans on the processes, so that they don't hear only one side of the story. We register political parties. We have currently 90 political parties who are registered. We have others who are in the process of registering. Kenyans actually apply in thousands for registration of political parties. Yeah, every week we are processing names, people who are reserving names and symbols and all that, almost 100 every other week. And whether that come to fruition in terms of registration depends on the person who have come to request for that registration, because there are processes and procedures which a Kenyan must meet when we are registering a political party, including looking for clearances for Chapter 6, then also recruiting members and opening offices, among other things.
Yes.
So sometimes majority of Kenyans come and probably are not able to really finish the process, but others who are very, very determined, they go all the way and are able to register a political party up to the end.
Okay.
We also look at the different procedures, and one of our role is to maintain, to be custodian and maintain a membership register of all political parties. Recently, or not recently, actually, in 2021, we came up with the platform where we manage those political party membership. And we have a system called Integrated Political Parties Management System, where we host the data of all members of political party. But it is important to note that the Office of Registrar of Political Party does not recruit members. It is political parties that recruit members. It's political parties then who own the members. We are only custodian to regulate for purposes of regulation. So when they decide to remove their members, it is them who have decided. But we have a role to see whether they have followed the law. Because it's one way to decide, because you can start there and declare that somebody is not a member. But when you come before us, ours is to check what you are saying and against the document you have presented and the procedures that you have followed, because it must be in tandem with the party constitution and the Political Parties Act and other applicable laws. Once we are certain that, that's the only time we only confirm what the party has already decided.
Okay.
But it is not our decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
If one has a problem with the decision, because clearly the matters that have arisen in the recent past have arisen because the decisions that the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties has made has not chimed well with certain political players. And they have said some really interesting things. And let me just read something that is quoted as having been said by one Eugene Wamalwa. The Registrar of Political Parties, Nderitu, must leave office in view of clear manifestation that she has been cooperated into partisan and illegal schemes by the Kenya Kwanza to cripple instead of protecting political parties. And yet, there's a rejoinder that is here, which in my opinion is worth reading as well. I do not work with threats and intimidation. There's a manner through which they can challenge decisions made by state officers. Now, I'd like to understand.
Yes.
A decision was made. Now, here is clearly a political statement being made by Eugene Wamalo.
Yes.
What are the procedures that one follows when one disagrees with the decision that has been made by your office?
I want first of all to note, in any dispute,
Yes.
not only at the Office of Registrar of Political Parties, even in court and anywhere that a dispute is, when a decision is made, there's always an aggrieved party. Somebody who feel that it could have gone in my favor. But at that particular time, a decision has to be made, and the person who is making the decision look at certain things.
Yes.
Okay.
Once you do that, then the aggrieved person, because you cannot have a decision that is favoring both sides. There's no way that one can happen. So once a decision is made, and in this case, in our case, we looked, first of all, the decision was made by the party. What was our role in that was only to look, as regulators, we are regulators.
Yes, you are.
Is to regulate the manner in which that person has fairness been done. Has this person been given fair hearing? Did he appear? And those are the conversations that the politicians would not want to venture in.
Was due process followed?
Was due process followed?
Yes.
Because that is what we look at. If the due process was followed, and remember, in this particular case, at this dispute started long in February. The first time it broke out.
Yes.
Of course, probably it was simmering within the party, and the minute the first meeting was held. And then we said, we have seen your minutes and we have observed, and we tell you, go and sort your matters within the party first. We were taken to the tribunal, which is okay because it's within the right of every Kenyan to go to seek for redress. And the tribunal told us, no, you're okay, you have right to observe what you have observed, but I think it's a bit too early. Allow the party to finish its processes before you come in. And we agreed. And then even in our letter we had said, go sort this matter, internal dispute resolution mechanism.
Yes.
And if there's a discipline issue, then you take people through the disciplinary procedures.
Yes.
So the party went, the people who are being addressed within the party went and did that. They went and carried out the process since February to the date. Now you hear we made the decision. Processes were going on within the party. The people who are aggrieved appeared before the disciplinary committees, before the IDRM, and all that. They were served with the rulings.
And all these things were documented.
And all those things were documented. They were served even with the ruling by the party. And so the documents were brought to us after we confirmed. And we actually confirmed that these people were served. And then we looked at the procedure, every procedure. Did the party do this? Did the party do this? Did these people appear? What did they say?
Yes.
And all that. And because they are not our members, they are members of that particular political party. And procedures have been followed. They have followed their own party constitution. They have followed the Political Parties Act. I do not, and we are apolitical.
Yes.
We cannot, people expect that we read politics. Yeah, you must see politics and the direction, the politics and all that. But you see, if you do that as an independent state office, then you are not going to do the work that the Constitution and the people of Kenya have allowed you to do, because you hold a position in trust.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Ms. Nderitu, I think they've gone a little bit further than that. And just for anybody who might be on the moon and not really understand what we're talking about here, is that, and if we're not, the Jubilee Party, essentially today, if we want to call them factions that have been split, one faction has not been shy in their assertions. And they have said that you are being used as a tool of the state to then take away whatever remainder of Jubilee is left and have it join Kenya Kwanza. They were not shy about that.
I'll give you two scenarios.
Said that.
Yeah, I'll give you two scenarios. Because for Registrar, when you do or you don't do, your goose is always cooked. Because there must be a political divide. And I'll give you two scenarios. Currently, we made some decision, sometimes a month, some few months ago, and the ruling party took us to court. Yeah. And we are in court. Actually, we are still in court. If we are that biased, then we could have been making all decisions that are favoring the sitting government. But this particular time, we actually made a ruling that the ruling party was very dissatisfied. The only thing they never went through. So they decided we are going to take the registrar to court. And they were unhappy with the decision. Because according to us, we look at the procedures and rule. And we are still in court. We are in court with many other political parties on matters that we have made decisions on. Because decisions must continue to be made. And the people who are dissatisfied then move to the next dispute resolution processes. For sure, then, how can we be partisan? When we are talking, and I'll give you another example, when we are talking about coalitions and all that, we are very categorical who is in which coalition, and the people who move and they actually have not moved legally. We say without shying. And sometimes it's not sitting very well with some sections of people in government. Sometimes it's not sitting well with people in opposition. Because when every time you talk and make a decision, those decisions are based on law. We don't base a decision on political scenarios. We base it on law and what is before us and what has been filed. So that we maintain our independence. Sometimes the accusation come because of the political unfolding, but we are not interested in politics. Ours is whether the law has been followed at that particular time. You cannot rule when you don't have documentation that has been presented before you, that you read around politics and then you rule, because that we are apolitical. And that's why we say it is very important that Kenyans understand that public institutions have to make decisions, and those decisions have to favor one side or the other depending on what is presented in law. Sometimes it's this side, sometimes it's this other side. Indeed, as we are accused from right, left, and center, sometimes we are accused from the political divide. When we make a decision from this, the other time you are accused from this other political divide. Finally, they are lost. They say, now we don't have to, because we are using the law. We are not using propaganda. We are not using, just like you are saying, intimidation and threat. Because if you are intimidated and threatened, who will stand for the law?
One of the things that they took issue with was the letter that you wrote on the 19th of May. And you wrote this to the Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Joshua Kutun. And you called the NEC meeting that was convened, you called it unlawful. They took issue with this directly.
Which one?
The letter that you wrote on the 19th of May that you delivered to Jubilee. And you called the NEC meeting that took place previously as unlawful. And what you cited was lack of quorum in that letter. What was that about? Because they've taken particular issue with this. We've heard as well that one Mr. Kioni actually said that the letters that you sent were backdated in terms of, the dates that you put on the letter. Why would they go into that intricate detail of saying that you've gone ahead and done something like that if you have said on the other side that you followed the law explicitly?
Now, I would want to understand what is backdating. Because you can only talk of a backdating of a document if there was another document that was available that had another date. Then you cancelled that and backdated another. We have not given any other letter apart from that letter given on the 19th. Dated on the 19th, and which we sent on Monday. Because I know you received letters. When you receive a letter could be written on 5th, but you receive it on 10th.
Yes.
Because the sender of the letter has to process that letter through a registry, through a process so that the letter leaves your desk to go to where it is. But what matters is that a letter was dated a particular date. So I actually I'm lost when I hear about backdating, because we don't have another letter. Because what is the basis of that backdating? Because if sending the letter on Monday, when it is dated on Friday, That is what happens in all government institutions. Even yesterday, I received letter from different government offices dated 5th, and I'm receiving them 2 weeks later. Yeah, as it was only a weekend in between, and we sent it on Monday. That letter, that's when they received it. Then what do you mean? And I want to understand what is this backdating, because there's no other document that we have released dated another date.
Madam Registrar, you are the registrar of political parties, which means of necessity you're going to be dealing with politicians.
And I agree. And I know, and they should know I love them.
Yes.
And I don't mind dealing with them every day. Yeah.
Will do what politicians do well.
Yes.
I want to understand something. When these decisions are made, it is your name that we always hear. And so one gets the impression that you sit somewhere receiving letters
by yourself.
Yes, and then you read and you decide, okay, this one, no, this one, I'm not going to do it this way. How does the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties make decisions?
First of all, the Office of Registrar has 7 departments. One of the departments is called Legal Department. We have another department called Compliance Department. Under Registrar, there are 2 assistant registrars. The registrar does not make decisions alone. Once documents have been filed, what we do, we give them to the team, mainly the Legal Department and the Compliance Department.
So who are in this team?
The Compliance Department, they are lawyers.
They are lawyers?
They are lawyers, majority
so
of
the
them.
departments represented are Compliance?
Compliance and Legal.
And
those are the main departments that will work on documents.
Yes.
And then we have the level of assistant registrars. We have one assistant registrar in charge of compliance.
Okay. And the other one?
The other one is in charge of registration. So they sit, they look at those documents. The final looking at the document is where we sit, me and my 2 assistant registrars, and we look at the merit of the case that has been presented, and then we make a decision. In this particular one, that is exactly what we did. It came from the Legal Department. They evaluated, they checked what is there, and they agreed that this is what we need to do, and then they came and presented to the registrar and assistant registrars. And then we sat and made the decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in a case such as that one...
But unfortunately, I happen to be the head of the institution and the spokesperson.
So it comes
those the back stops with me.
Looking at the events that have taken place over the last 2 weeks, they've taken place maybe a little bit longer than that. We had the Wrangles way before that. But then now we are seeing in a political party that is regulated by the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, one political party now has 2 factions of leadership. Nobody is letting go. Your letter of May 19th notwithstanding, the rulings given thereafter still notwithstanding, 2 factions are holding on to party leadership, one calling the other unrecognized, the other calling the other the same thing. We cannot run away from the political nuance that is all around that is all around this. What then is your role beyond the ruling that has been given? Because it seems as though the ruling that you gave has been chucked out the window. And they're still going to carry on as they have been. What happens now?
I want to start a bit backward.
Okay.
How a dispute is supposed to be resolved. The first thing, when we notice there's a dispute, the only time we notice there's a dispute is when we see counter filings. That these people are filing this and this other one are filing this. That is when you first notice that there is a dispute. But before then, it's a political context. When it's out there before anything has been filed, it's a political context. We can only talk to them, ask them, what are you doing? What is it that, how can we help you at that particular level? But when counter filing start coming, that's when we realize there's a dispute. And immediately, the registrar realizes there's a dispute. The first thing is to call the party to order. Through writing to them, and you tell them, I have realized this and this that is happening. Kindly have internal dispute resolution mechanism. In the 2022 Act, the law now made it mandatory for party, before it goes anywhere else, the party should actually address itself to internal dispute resolution mechanism. And a party is just like a family. When people start fighting in a family, the first thing is not to go out there to call neighbors and to call everybody. I think the first thing a family does.
Well, unless the one in the house wants to, shoot you, then you're going to ask for help.
Yeah. Unless you are on fire, you are just about to be killed and all that, then you can shout and ask for. Yeah, but if it's an argument, and this one is to us is a political argument, the first thing a family and a party should do is to sit down and ask ourselves, why are we quarreling? Can we be able to resolve that? If they are not able to resolve that within the party, that is when they go to the next level. So the minute we realize this, that the first thing is to refer them to internal dispute resolution mechanism. So they try to see, and we have, as parties, and after the change of law, parties had to come up with party organs, which include dispute resolution committees and disciplinary committees, standing committee within the party to deal with that. And then it's at that level when they really talk and they can no longer agree, like in the current scenario, then the dispute get outside. Like what they have done now, as we look at how the meetings were held, whichever the functions, a party is ruled by majority, minority have their say, majority have their way, because that is democracy, and that the party constitution must provide how their meetings and quorums and all that should happen, so that then from there, once they file, now we are going to see what they have done, and when they are unable to resolve, and probably is even as we make a decision like the one we made, the next dispute resolution platform is according to Section 40 of the Political Parties Act, is the dispute, the Political Parties Dispute Tribunal, and that is where then they can even take the registrar. They can take each other, members of the party can take the party can take its members and all that.
Okay.
So, and that is the stage we are in. Already, they have filed a dispute on the same, which is a good step, and which to us we think it's the right way to go. Okay. Yeah, so that it is heard before another neutral arbiter, who is not the registrar, because as we have made decisions and we are regulating them, and then we process that matter and present our evidence why we made the decision the way we made it, and the court will evaluate.
But in a scenario where, and it's been said that possible that this is that scenario, in a scenario where there might be external participation or external push for a certain decision to be made in a certain way, how does the registrar's office handle that?
First of all, according to the law, we are not under any control. Yeah, so that's why to us we stick to the law. That is the reason why we stick to the law, because we want to be on the side of law. Let me tell you, I want to tell you that the only protection of a public officer is the law. When you follow the law and you try and see as much as possible you are fair, and you have looked at what are the provisions, then you feel comfortable. Even if your decision is challenged, at least you can be questioned by court on different areas, or even your decision overturned, but the court will declare where you actually never probably, but we do due diligence in terms of following the law.
When a political matter is taken before a high court, how
before it goes to high court, it has to go through especially from the dispute resolution process.
Yes.
After leaving the dispute tribunal, the people who have aggrieved have an opportunity also to go to the high court, then from high court to court of appeal. In the amended act, the dispute are capped at court of appeal.
So it cannot go beyond court of appeal.
Yeah. In the current act.
So whatever the court of appeal decides, that will
now become final. That one become final.
So essentially, what you're saying, these matters that we're discussing here haven't gotten to the point of the court of appeal yet.
They have not even started at the tribunal.
We're not even at the tribunal yet.
They have just been filed. They have just been filed at the tribunal. And that's why we are going to present why we made the decision the way we made it.
Now, let me understand this. Now that they have filed, what then is the status with regards to the officials of the Jubilee Party? What holds sway? Who is the Secretary General? Who is the leader? Who is the chair? What then stands, since the matter now has been taken before a different arbitrator?
Now, of course, we will. The court will process its own whatever and declare itself. But as far as we're concerned, we removed 2 officials of Jubilee Party.
What was the reason? And I think I think that is the question that a lot of them are asking. If there was some kind of clarity for them, what was the reason why those 2 individuals were removed from the leadership of the Jubilee Party, as opposed to somebody else having been removed? What was the reason that, if it is documented as you say it is, that this is the reason why at this point these 2 individuals, in the name of one Honorable David Murathe and another Honorable Kioni, why were they removed?
You see, we cannot converse matter that is already in court in depth. So that those reasons the party will give.
They know.
They know. And even them, because they appeared before the process, they know. And they had the opportunity to be heard. So I may not want to go into the depth, because already the
it's
case
a matter before the court.
Before the court, yeah.
So we cannot adjudicate it here.
Yeah, we cannot adjudicate it here.
All right. Okay, now let's not adjudicate it, but let's talk a little bit about such matters. In your experience, when political parties come before you, we lay people assume that because you're the registrar of political parties, you have all the documents that pertain to that party.
Yes.
You have a very clear understanding of the rules and regulations that this party follows, for instance, in resolving disputes.
Yes.
And you have a clear mandate and a clear indication of how these things should go. Now, if it is clear to you, are we therefore saying, because we are seeing that there's a disagreement, that it isn't clear to the people who are in those parties themselves?
Of course, it is clear. But politics, you said, politics must play. And, they have the platform. And 2, to be fair to everyone, when such a situation happens, somebody will be aggrieved. So you are able to, you continue expressing and try also to really state your position, which is also allowed in democracy, that somebody should be allowed also to have an opportunity. Indeed, that's why, to me, I'm not offended by even what they are saying, because it's their democratic right also to picket, also to talk about a public officer and also question decisions of a public officer. The only thing is that we must also allow the rule of law in terms of the processing. So I think it is within their right, when people are aggrieved, to be allowed to vent. Yeah, and to talk about it, and to be allowed to question, and to be allowed also to talk what they think it's unfair to them. But then later, when now we go through the process, it is seen what was done.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does the law also allow you to take individuals to court should they say things which are slanderous to your name and things which depict you in an incorrect light?
If I feel that it's
if you're adequately aggrieved.
I'm adequately aggrieved, just like any other Kenyan.
Yes.
I have a right.
Yes.
I have constitutional right to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, if I feel that it is adequate, I don't know whether to say adequately aggrieved.
Yes.
Yeah, but so far,
yes,
I think it's within their right to pick it, to say,
yes.
Because by the way, if you take a job as a state officer, as a public officer, you are a public officer. So you should be allowed yourself for scrutiny.
Yes.
Yeah, to be criticized, to be said what you have done or not done.
Yes.
Because you are holding an institution.
Yes.
And what I separate personally, there's a very big difference between the registrar of political parties and Nderitu the person.
Of
course.
Yeah, they can continue talking about the registrar of political parties.
That's
I have
fine.
no problem with
Yes.
that. Yeah, because, and they even mentioned my name because I'm the one sitting at this particular time. There is no problem with that. And I separate that because that registrar, by any other name, apart from Nderitu, even if it's called you, you'll be criticized in the same manner.
Indeed. So the very first question that I had asked was about the role that the Registrar of Political Parties plays and what it is mandated to do. Now, this what we have seen, and that could very easily happen, seeing as we're in the season, or usually around elections, we get into the season of coalitions. And that you're likely to see these wrangles by virtue of the fact that we're dealing with human beings, politicians or not. So, is it then within the mandate of the Registrar of Political Parties then to get involved in sorting out internal party wrangles?
We can do it as far as the law allows us to do. One, you know that we have no apparent powers. We have not court. We don't have court power. We are quasi judicial, yes, but we don't have court powers that we can now resolve a dispute. We don't have because we are regulators. We can attempt, and we actually usually attempt by those IDRM talking to different functions. Sometimes we call the warring functions together if they are, for lack of a better word, if they are callable. Because there are times the dispute has gone so much, even if you call them, there's no need. They have already started labeling you, and they have done, if they are callable, for lack of a better English word, then you can call them and try. And we do that every time. By the way, in this year alone, I think we have done about 13 or so parties. Some of them actually come and agree.
Okay.
Yeah, about 13 parties. And they come, we discuss, we tell them this is the way, this is what your constitution says, this is what you can do, and ABCD. And if you are not agreeing, you are actually affecting the operations of your party, and you cannot move forward as a party. Because when there's a dispute, the party does not move forward.
So
but we cannot go beyond what the law allow us to do. Part of it being that we have no arbitration powers. Neither do we have dispute resolution powers. Ours is regulation powers. So once we are not able to then bring them together from a regulation point of view for clarifying dispute and allowing them to see where they are so that they are able to resolve, then that's when we declare it's a dispute and we send them to the tribunal for the dispute to be resolved. And we make the decisions that we have to make.
Like what you made.
Like what we made, because you cannot put the party in oblivion. You must make a decision to make it move forward, provided the legal processes have been followed, so that you are not the block that is refusing them to sort their matter. So they'll go to the next level, which is the tribunal, where now their matter will be heard, and then determinations will be made.
Would we see this kind of attention if it was a smaller party that did not influence the political conversation of the day? Would we see this kind of attention that with what is given to Jubilee today, which then fuels the conversation about?
I'm telling you, there are so many other parties that have disputed. This year alone, we have done about 13 parties that have different disputes. A majority of them have agreed and gone. Others, there are even several other parties that are in court who are undergoing dispute because of decisions we have made.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is the attention that is given by the politician, depending on the political acumen of various politicians.
Okay.
Yeah.
One issue that has come up, again, having come from coalition season, as I like to call it, is that several parties come under the umbrella of a coalition. At some point, for one reason or the other, we'll find that parties will move and they will go to another coalition. There have been calls for you to regulate that action and say, what happens to these parties? We then run under this umbrella. Then suddenly somewhere along the line, these parties then move. And they've not heard from you about what happens to those parties. Can they just go and do as they like? Meanwhile, they did, as a coalition, come and be registered under the office, isn't it? But then they decide to move, and we don't hear the registrar saying anything. Issue has come up.
We have said many things. And you have been attacked for it.
Yes,
probably.
Your silence has also been attacked. They say your silence is being attacked for. Why then do we not see you making noise about these parties who were with us, and then suddenly, because we are not the government of the day, they've moved, and then nobody has said anything? Why is there no action being taken?
I think history will tell us that coalitions in this country, after elections, they start being shaky. And it's not the first time. Evaluate the coalitions that have been there before. CORD, NASA, which other coalition? Jubilee coalition itself after the elections of 2017. All those coalitions start because politics is also about interest, and some politicians feel the alignment. So the balance here is the right of association and the provisions of the law. As we have decided, if you want to move, because it's your right, if you really, as a party, want to move to the other side or remain on the other side, one, that is guaranteed. And the law does not prohibit you to move. What it prohibits is for you to move illegally. You must follow the procedures that are read down for you to move. And if you are a party and you are in a certain coalition, then you should leave legally.
And legally means you leave after a certain period of time.
Yeah.
Now, if you leave...
And then you process the documentation of that leaving.
Now, if you leave before that period of time, what powers does your office have in order to restore that balance that is supposed to be created by those rules?
First of all, ours is to check how you leave, you enter and leave. That is the powers that we have, because we are regulatory.
That's it.
But we cannot sanction you as a member. First of all, members do not belong to us. Those people who are moving from one party to another, some are remaining on this, so they are moving they are moving as members. So the issue of members moving, it's the work of the party. It's the work of the party, so that the party regulates itself by calling its members to order. We cannot come and deal with an individual politician to tell you, no, you must remain on this direction, because we don't have those powers.
But you can actually tell an individual that they can go within a party.
No,
as we have seen.
No, we don't make that decision. We regulate the manner in which the decision is still made by the party.
So you can uphold the decision that has been made by the party because you see that they have followed the procedure.
Yes, but we cannot start the process ourselves.
But when a party wants to leave a coalition, do you look at the process through which they may have left and said, we can say that this is all right? Do you get involved? Or do you, as you just said, allow them to sort out their issues?
First of all, they have to sort out their issues internally. That is what the law says. Secondly, we are categorical, and we have always pronounced ourselves that should you want to move from one coalition to another, there are procedures read in the coalition agreement. Every coalition agreement has procedures. But the law does not tell us what we do with individual members as registrar who decide to go against and if you had the people doing the bipartisan talks, they are saying that is one of the issues that need to be discussed, because it is not put in law. It's not clear in law what you should do, especially with members within a political party who decide to behave in a different way from the precepts of the coalition or the party.
Madam Registrar, what then happens when a political party, not the individual, moves with its members and joins a political... We saw this in this last election. They now coalesce with a different political coalition, but not within the times that we were told they are allowed to, well before the time. Do you have any powers to...
First of all, we are in court with them in some of those cases. It becomes a dispute between even us, because as we pronounce ourselves that you are doing the wrong thing, we will tell you, you are wrong as a party to do ABCD. So when we tell you you are wrong, they take us to court. Right now, we have like 4 or 5 cases on the issues of coalition, because we have pronounced ourselves to say you really cannot. Yeah.
But you don't, beyond the matter going to court, you don't have any powers. You can't deregister the party. You can't. You can't call the leaders.
Leaders, you can call. You can tell them.
That's all.
That's all. You can tell them, because your power is to tell. Your power is to regulate. But after that, the sanctions are not there, because what will make it very, very, very strict is when the law gives sanctions to individual members who behave in a certain way and probably
How did they leave this out? I mean, you have a register of political parties. They've left you toothless.
But we don't register. We don't do registration.
No, you
we don't make laws.
No, you don't. But in the absence of members, you cannot have a political party without members.
Yeah.
Okay? So political party members are an integral part of a political party.
Yeah.
And it is not the political party that does something, because this is an inanimate object. It is members who hold positions within political parties who do certain things on behalf of the party. So when we talk, we say political party. It's the people within the political party who have done something. So I am simply saying that it appears that the crafters of this particular law and the people who set whatever legal processes there was to set this office seem to have deliberately left you without teeth.
In terms of that particular idea, there are no sanctions, because what is not there is sanctions, and who should implement those sanctions, and probably that is why part of the discussion that is being said is how to then make that smart, and ensure that the provisions of the law are able to really cover this. Because personally, I don't believe in the kind of movement
that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. As we wrap this up, what would be your message to Jubilee today? What would be your message to the Jubilee Party, to the Azimio coalition today?
Let me address myself to Jubilee, because the Jubilee we are talking, the coalition have their own umbrella there. To Jubilee Party, I think I still say, and I still think Jubilee has very mature politicians. If they sit down together, they can be able to resolve their matters, because they have been together. They are the one who came together. They brought themselves into a party, and they knew what they were looking for. So to me, if they still sit down together, because politics also is never personal. Yeah, it's never personal. You can disagree today, but tomorrow you agree. So they still have an opportunity to come back together and make their party work and resolve their disputes. Because finally we shall go through the court processes, and court will declare themselves, but the party still are the one who really need to have their dispute resolved. Yeah.
The Registrar of the Office of the Political Parties, Nderitu, thank you so much for being our guest in the Situation Room this morning. Asante Sana. Hope we can chat again in the near future about these processes. Thank you very much.